This is the story of a lone trooper. It was supposed to be a routine patrol, but it turned into a nightmare when our ship was boarded by space pirates. In the chaos that followed, I found myself alone, separated from my squad and with no way to contact them. My orders were to defend the ship at all costs, but as a Lone Star ship trooper, how could I possibly do that? My only hope was to make it to the bridge and launch an escape pod. That was my only chance of survival. The ship was a wreck. Crew members lay dead or injured everywhere. I had to move fast. If the pirates found me, I wouldn't stand a chance. The ship's alarm blared as I ran through the corridors. It was a haunting sound that echoed my own fear. With every step I took, the noise got louder, more intense, until it felt like my heart was pounding in my ears. Then, just as suddenly as it started, the noise stopped. I was at the bridge. There was the escape pod. Relief washed over me. Just as I reached for the controls, a voice crackled over the intercom. "You're surrounded." It was one of the pirates. They had found me. I had to make a choice. Stay and fight or escape in the pod. I chose the latter. With the pirates close behind me, I launched the pod. As we hurtled through space, I looked back at the ship. It was a tiny speck in the vast darkness. I knew I might never see it again. Hope flickered within me. Maybe I'd be rescued. Maybe I'd tell this tale and live to fight another day. But right now, I was alone and I was scared. And then I realized I wasn't alone. There was someone else in the pod with me, a stowaway. I hadn't seen him before because he was frozen in carbonite. Now he was slumped against the controls, his face pale and lifeless. Who was he? Why had he been on the ship? And why did the pirates want him so badly? I didn't know it then, but soon I would find out. My first concern was getting the pod to a safe distance from the ship. I maneuvered it away from the danger zone, hoping the pirates wouldn't follow, but there was no escape. Their ship was faster and soon they were upon us. A battle ensued. Laser fire filled the void between our ships. My heart pounded in my chest as I tried to evade their attacks. It felt like we were playing a deadly game of space tag, except the stakes were much higher. This wasn't a game. This was life and death. I thought I had managed to shake them off, but I was wrong. It was still on my tail. We went through asteroid fields. I used the asteroids to hide the pod. I didn't know how long we were out there, but I knew I couldn't keep this up. The fuel was getting low and we were running out of time. One had to get out of there. And then I saw it, a planet. It was small, rocky, and not very welcoming, but it was our best chance of landing. I made a rough descent into the planet's atmosphere. I could feel the heat from the friction of the atmosphere against the pod, the wind whistling past my ears. Then we hit the ground hard. The world spun around me. I tried to regain my balance, but it was difficult. I was disoriented, my vision blurred. I stumbled out of the pod. The crash had knocked the air out of me. I looked back at the wreckage of the pod. It was a mess of twisted metal. I was alive, but I was alone and stranded on a hostile planet. At least I had my weapon. It was dented and scratched, but it was still functional. That gave me some comfort. I was prepared to fight if I needed to. As I explored the area, I came across something that made my heart sink. A crashed pirate ship. They had followed me here. Were they after the same stowaway? What did they want with him? I didn't know the answers then, but I was determined to find out. Days turned into weeks. I scavenged what I could from the wreckage of the pod and the pirate ship. Food was scarce. Water was even more so. I rationed what I had, trying to make it last as long as possible. I walked miles each day, hoping to find help or maybe a friendly face. Anyone who could help me repair the ship and get off this godforsaken planet. But I wasn't alone. I had company. Strange scaly creatures with big yellow eyes followed me everywhere. They were curious about the strange new thing on their planet, I guess, but they weren't aggressive. And after a while I stopped feeling so afraid. I started feeling hungry. I'd never gone so long without food. I could feel my strength ebbing away, my body slowly shutting down. Then one day I found a stream. It was small, but it was fresh water. I drank my fill and felt a surge of energy. Maybe I could make it after all. I didn't know how long I'd been on the planet, but I knew I was close to my breaking point. I was starving and I couldn't go on much longer. Then I heard it, a sound that brought tears to my eyes. The sound of a starship. I ran towards it, waving my arms. I was too far away. They couldn't see me. I ran after them. I had to get their attention. I stumbled and fell, scraping my hands on the rough terrain. But I didn't care. I had to get to them. They landed in the distance. I could see figures emerging from the ship. They were tall and slender, with smooth, pale skin. They looked at me with a mixture of curiosity and caution. I waved again. This time they noticed me. One of them raised his hand, palm out, in a gesture of peace. I took it slowly, cautiously approaching the ship. They didn't seem to mind. One of them spoke. His voice was musical, almost otherworldly. "Hello, stranger. Are you from around here?" he asked. I shook my head, my throat too dry to speak. "No," I rasped. He frowned, his brow furrowing. "Why are you here? How did you get here?" He gestured to the wrecked pod. "That was my transport," I croaked. "It crashed. I needed help." He nodded, understanding dawning on his face. "We can help you repair your ship. Come with us." And so I left the desolate planet with the beings that seemed so advanced yet so welcoming. But that didn't last long. As we traveled through the galaxy, I began to realize these beings weren't as benevolent as they seemed. They kept me confined to their ship, monitoring me constantly. I was their prisoner, and I had a sneaking suspicion they knew something about the stowaway and why the pirates were after him. Then one of them approached me. His name was Alec. He had a kind face with gentle eyes. "Why did you take that risk? Why did you board our ship?" he asked me. I hesitated, unsure how much to trust him, but something in his eyes, a vulnerability, perhaps, made me confide in him. I was alone, I admitted, my voice barely a whisper. I had to do what I could to survive. I was a Lone Star Trooper, abandoned and alone. I poured out my story to him, hoping he'd understand. "So why did you bring me here? Why am I imprisoned on your ship?" I asked, my voice trembling with fear and exhaustion. "We don't mean you any harm," Alex replied softly. "I'm sorry if you feel that way, but we needed your help." "What do you mean?" I asked, confused. "You are a key part of an ancient prophecy," Alex said, his voice filled with reverence. "A prophecy foretelling the arrival of a Lone Star Trooper who will help us restore balance to the universe." "A prophecy?" I scoffed, unable to believe what I was hearing. "Come on, surely you don't actually believe in that nonsense." Alex's eyes filled with sadness. "We have no choice but to believe it. Our world hangs in the balance." Before I could respond, a piercing alarm sounded throughout the ship. Red lights flashed, bathing the room in an eerie glow. "What's happening?" I cried out, startled by the sudden commotion. "The pirates," Alex whispered, his face ashen. "They've found me." Terror gripped me as I watched Alex's face drain of color. His eyes, once filled with kindness, now held a desperate plea. Before I could react, he vanished, leaving me alone in the face of a danger I didn't fully comprehend.